For those who have been living under a rock, Ivan Toney made his return to football after 6 months on the sidelines for a betting ban, a gambling ban. He made his return, triumphant return, on the weekend. A lot of pomp, a lot of circumstance, a lot of hype. I think they played the Undertaker's theme song whilst introducing Ivan Toney onto the pitch, which I think is actually pretty funny. In fairness, as a wrestling fan, I appreciate that a lot. So yeah, there was a lot to enjoy around the pomp and the circumstance and the kind of ceremonious return in a sense. But regardless, it was all yeah, he's coming back, but he needs to do something on the pitch. And within half an hour of his return game, he smashes a free kick home to give Brentford the lead at the stage of that game, or to at least equalise. Can't quite remember. So yeah, obviously the way he did score the goal was pretty funny, moving the referee's magic spray to move the free kick across, and then using that angle to get it past the wall into the near post. It was a shithouse return, shithousery is kind of the word that I would use to summarise a return. I do find it pretty A, concerning, and B, kind of ironic in a sense that I do find it slightly ironic and slightly concerning that a person who was banned for 6 months for gambling issues, who has been also diagnosed with a gambling addiction, returns and is now wearing a shirt that has a betting sponsor on it. I feel like that's a little bit, look, come on, guys. Not read the room, but also if that is an indictment on the game that we're playing and the state of the game and what it's in. I mean, that says a lot, right? But yeah, there was something about Toney coming back after 6 months off, all the hype, all the circumstance, after all of his interviews, after all of the open admissions he has with gambling addiction, I should say, not drug addiction, with gambling addiction and being a gambling addict and the struggles that he's had to face with that. For him to come back and wear a gambling sponsor on the front of his shirt is a little bit like, right, okay, so what are we actually doing here? What does that 6-month ban actually achieve when he's just going to come back and be surrounded by betting sponsors and gambling adverts and just gambling, multis, parlays, or accas. It's just everywhere in his face all the time. I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of a get over yourself. Maybe. I don't think it is that. But it was good to see him back regardless. He's one of the great showmen of the Premier League. He is a very physically imposing striker, a very good striker, full stop. Very, very good, underrated with the ball at his feet as well, I think. So yeah, it was good to see him back. And hopefully he can kick on for Brentford, because Brentford do kind of need him, because I want to say in a relegation dogfight, but because I feel like they're good enough to not get relegated. But they are 14th. Obviously, they did climb to 14th after that win. That was their first win since December, where they beat Luton 3-1. So if he can stay fit, if he can play the next 6 months of the season, they'll stay up, no dramas. They might even finish 10th or 11th. And maybe they can get a good transfer fee from him. He should be playing at a better club, bigger club. Realistically, he should be at I think Arsenal's a great place for him. Realistically, I think he provides a brilliant backboard to Saka and Odegaard and Martinelli and Vieira when he starts to play a little bit more. And even Jesus, I think he's a better winger than he is a striker. Like I said when they signed him at the start of last season. Yeah, I think he'd work great there. I think he'd work well at City if they want to move Haaland on. I think he's a pretty good replacement. I'd take him at Chelsea. I'd for sure take him at Chelsea without a shadow of a doubt. He'd be someone that we lack. I know Nicholas Jackson has found a little bit of form, but also he's someone that we could use to give us anything. Any sort of physical presence up front and a presence up front that can score goals. So I'd take him there. Would Spurs take him? Maybe. I don't know whether or not he fits into Ange's system. Even someone like a Villa, does he fit with Emery's system? Probably not. Probably Emery likes a little bit more of a dynamic front two, because he likes to play pretty stringent two banks of four. And so I don't know. But regardless, it was good to see him back. Good to see him back within the goals, and hopefully he can like parlay this return, good form or a good start to his return, and kick on into the second half of the year and help Brentford climb the table and um help his kind of status as a footballer. Obviously, with the Euros coming up, you never know if he can make the squad. So yeah, there's that. Just speaking on the gambling aspect of it though, because like, look, I'm over the age of 18, so I can say that I've had a bet or two or three, or that's it. But like, it's well and truly implemented and entrenched is the word I'm looking for. Bang, vocabulary. It's well and truly entrenched into sporting culture, but in particular football culture, right? Even in Australia and in England is very much the same. You cannot expect footballers who are, especially a footballer like Ivan Toney, who is very much a working class footballer, right? You cannot expect any footballer, regardless of who they are, to not have betted before, right? Whether it's on the horses, on the tennis, on the dogs, on fucking whatever, right? Latvian badminton, right? Whatever. You cannot expect a footballer to have not have gambled before, B, not have been tempted to gamble, C, not have spoken about gambling, and D, worked with gambling companies directly before. Because I can guarantee you, what is it, Hollywood Bets is the shirt sponsor of Brentford? Can guarantee you they would have been in direct contact with Ivan Toney at some stage throughout that kind of partnership. Guarantee you. So how can you sit there and be like, Ivan Toney's a bad person for gambling? It's around him all the time. Like, no shit. Like, if you want to talk about preventability, come on. Like, if you want to talk about preventability and you want to talk about putting yourself in a position where that doesn't happen, come on. Like, I'm of the strong opinion that you cannot dictate what other people do, right? I can't tell Ivan Toney, or Brentford can't tell Ivan Toney to not gamble, right? Because it's his life, he can do what he wants. But he can put himself. You need to be able to put other people or people you are responsible for in the best possible place to not do things. In the same way that we are taught, crime is bad, right? The people who are responsible for us, our parents, guardians, teachers, whoever, like drugs are bad. They do this harm, right? You are educating someone. You are putting them in a good position to make informed decisions about what this is, about the harmful effects, right? You cannot, in this instance with Ivan Toney, you cannot sit there and go, do not gamble, it is against the law, but please work with this gambling sponsor that is our front of shirt sponsor, and that gives us 90% of our sponsorship revenue. Thank you very much. Can you please play in this stadium where they have Bet365 adverts running around all the time? Can you please do that? And then when you finish the game, make sure you do a post-match interview, which will be posted on Twitter. And in the response to that, there'll be people saying, "This guy scored and won my accumulator, won me 10 grand. Thanks, Ivan." Like, it is around him 24/7. So whether there needs to be reform about gambling in sport, that's probably the way that I would go with it. But whether there has to be reform about gambling in sport, which is the way I would go about it, or there needs to be lenient restrictions around what sports people can do when it comes to gambling. Whether or not they can gamble on their own team, or as long as it's not to lose, whether they can gamble on themselves scoring, because there has to be some change. There has to be some change, because it can't be the same thing over and over again. It just can't be.